2025 Vuelta España, stage 12, and I can confirm we have a stage winner, we have a red jersey, and we have a podium presentation at the end of the day, at the end of 145 kilometers of racing, all in the northern region of Cantabria, finishing here in Los Corrales de Buelna. And on top, well, you would have seen him from the other day. It's again Juan Ayuso, the man who's racing under the dictatorship, and he said that we took that out of context a little bit. I'll get to that later in this show. And he beat out Javier Romero, the two, from an escape, attacked on the last climb with around 26 kilometers to go, making their way here to the finish in a two-up sprint. And it was Juan Ayuso in the mega super team of UAE Team Emirates, the team of Tadej Pogacar, who won the Tour de France this July and not participating, though we thought he was, in the Vuelta España. Here they're racing for Juan Ayuso, and that was one of the team leaders along with João Almeida, and now it's just João Almeida who's going for the GC, but the team's already picked up, as of today, 5 stage wins because Juan Ayuso, 2 stages for him, 2 stages for Jay Vine, who also holds the points, Maglia Poix, the mountain competition jersey, and of course that team time trial win, way back when. And here we are today in stage 12, counting 5 of the 12 stages so far. It's Juan Ayuso, the Spaniard, on top. Now let's roll it back to the beginning. As I mentioned, 145 kilometers, and all the talk this morning was, were there going to be more protesters representing the state of Palestine, who Spain support, France support, and all the world is watching as the Gaza Strip is being bombarded by Israel, and people want change. People want safety and security for a nation, and unfortunately incidences are happening, and it's boiling over in all sorts of places, and especially here on the ground at the Vuelta España, where Team Israel Premier Tech races with this country name right there in the name, Israel, and team owner, co-owner Sylvan Adams never considered changing the name, even though the State of Israel doesn't sponsor the team directly. Here they are at the start. They confirmed today they'd start the organization of the governing body of the cycling, Union Cycliste Internationale. They condemned the action yesterday and doesn't want any of the riders to have any harm. It's a pretty spineless move by the UCI race governing body, condemning the action. Well, we all condemn the action. Do something, because the riders are facing pressure from us, the journalists, from the fans, the protesters, from other teams, and we hear there's a lot of kind of negative sentiment towards the team, saying, guys, leave the race, get all this bad stuff off of us because you're putting us in trouble. But the team continues in the race. The whole race continues, and thankfully today, despite the protesters we saw on the finish line and at the start, everything went A-OK out there, and we had a pretty normal stage. Now, we had a crash at 100 kilometers on, and we had a big and massive escape up the road, but this crash had happened back in the group, and it involved Big Ben Turner, winner of the stage when we were in France. I think it was stage 4, stage 4, before the stage 5 TTT that UAE Team Emirates won once we were back on home soil of the Vuelta España. Big Ben goes down. Also in that crash, well, is Matthew Riccitello from the team I was talking about before, that a lot of riders want to leave the race, wishes the team would leave the race. Those 2 guys and some other riders came down as well. They seemingly were okay, back on their bikes, getting on. And then we had that massive escape. Now, 52 riders in the escape. Interestingly enough, out of the 52 riders, 1 team was not represented, and I'll let you guess. It's been a team that we've talked about quite a bit yesterday and today. That team wasn't represented in that 52-man escape. Every other team was. Now we came to that intermediate sprint, and you know Mats Pedersen, the big baller that he is, he said it the other day in Zaragoza, he's not the pure sprinter as a Jasper Philipsen. He has the climbing legs, and he can also do damage on these rolling stages. We saw that in Bilbao yesterday in the Basque Country, and we're here in Cantabria today. What a beautiful cut. Just, come on. Just let's pause for a minute here, and let's recognize this region that's oft overlooked by tourists who will go to Andalusia, Sevilla, we'll go to Barcelona, we'll go to Madrid, but they're missing out because I'll tell you this morning, up there on the ridgeline with the Atlantic coast to the north there and the cool breeze blowing in, lush light conditions, Spain's little slice of Ireland, and you can see why with the lush greenery. I logged it all on Strava. You could check it out there. 10, 11K, 10K we did around there. Beautiful loop with golden beaches down below, coves, rocks coming out of the waters. mind-blowing. Mads Pedersen out of the escape gets this points sprint win. I spoke with Mads Pedersen at the finish line. He's in the green jersey, and he said, you know, this is important. We recognized it probably was. Also, I think his 5th place on the line today at the finish, because those points are important if he wants to win that green jersey at the end of this Vuelta a España when we finish in Madrid in a week's and a half time, because Jonas Vingegaard, whether he intends to get those points for the green jersey points competition, he's going to pick them up, because we imagine Jonas, Farapona, Angliru tomorrow, he's going to pick up points at the finish line because he's going to be smashing the stages as 2-time Tour de France winner and outright favorite in this Vuelta a España and race leader in the Maya Rojo racing ahead. So Mads Pedersen, another Dane on Dane action, is concerned and is trying to pick up all these intermediate sprint points, and in these hard stages where he can get away. He did it at the intermediate sprint. Then we came through the city and they were going to do a big loop in that final climb. Through the city, we saw some protesters. You could see it there, but they were mostly under control, nothing like we had in Bilbao the day before. Now, in this escape, teams with a lot of representation. UAE, Team Emirates, big representation. EF Education with Boloki, Shaw, Vanderlee, also Sean Quinn. Love talking with Sean every day. He represented a lot of the riders in the talking the other day along with Matteo Jorgensen. These riders were helping set up James Shaw for his attack, particularly Vanderlee, and I think it was Boloki, who was son of Josebo Boloki, was setting up this action. And James Shaw, who ignited that climb first, the EF Education easy post rider. We saw Magnus Sheffield, the American from Ineos up there, Ineos Grenadiers. And there was about 4 or 5 riders up the road. UAE with the big stars, Soler helping out Ayuso, were back behind just a little bit, but when it counted, Soler pulled back the throttle and bridged Ayuso up, and we saw that attack with around 26 kilometers out because they picked up the James Shaw group and boom, flew up the road. Ayuso solo briefly, joined by Movistar rider Javier Romero over the top. And yeah, over the top, down to the bottom, and already Ayuso and Romero were starting to play the games and started to try to figure out Spaniard, what was going to happen. They were speaking a little Spaniolo back and forth, trying to sort things out for the finish and who was going to work what. And you could see Ayuso say, hey man, I already got one in the bank at this 2025 Vuelta a España. My team, with Vine having 2 stage wins and our team time trial, you know, I don't care, you do the work. And that sort of gamesmanship maybe gave Ayuso the extra bit of advantage as we headed in towards the finish line. Back behind them, of course, we had the remnants of that escape. We also had, in the middle of no man's land, we had Roland in there chasing. Barak Roland, no relation to Pierre Roland. He was chasing, but nothing to be done with our 2 Spaniards up the road. Movistar, the nation's home team, Movistar, UAE Team Emirates, with Juan Ayuso racing under the dictatorship, and I'll get to that here in a minute. Juan Ayuso and UAE Team Emirates, obviously United Arab Emirates team, heading to the line, and Juan Ayuso worked it perfectly, saved his energy just as he should have, coming around the left side, just beating Romero in the sprint, takes it. 2nd stage victory for Ayuso after that one that followed the Andorra fallout. 24 hours later, he got his 1st stage win. Right up there, and I asked him at the finish line, well, what was this going through his mind today? He said, well, look, I didn't have much time to think about how I was going to celebrate the victory, but it means a lot because we had that press release on the rest day about how he was going to be leaving the team, and that press release was already planned out, but the team released it on the rest day, I think, because after all what was going on with Ayuso not really helping Almeida and just all the kind of bad mojo vibes in the team said, well, we're just going to put it out right now. That's what Juan Ayuso explained when he meant dictatorship, that he had no say in the quotes that went in that press release. They were using some of the quotes that he had already given to them before this race when he was determined he was going to leave the team. So he wanted to clarify, and he said that with us, and you can see, check out that interview on FloBikes later. Remember, all this coverage is live and on demand for our viewers in Canada. So in addition to the shows, the interviews, if you're in Canada, you got to make sure you're tuning in, tune the old dials on the TV set, get the remote, click, click, click. And if you can watch in color, try to watch in color, live and on demand in FloBikes. Juan Ayuso clarified his statements, and you could tell it's still a bit rocky though there in UAE, kind of really wondering what's going on. I should mention Bruno Amarai was in that group, and that group had about 5 minutes over the finish line. Amarai, I think he was definitely the best placed GC rider in the group from Decathlon AG2R Le Mondial. He'll move up quite a bit thanks to that maneuver today, that move that went free, that escape. But I want to talk about João Almeida, who's sitting 2nd overall provisionally. You got Tom Pidcock right there, who was firing in the Bilbao stage. Caught up with João Almeida right there at the finish line, the Portuguese rider, the leader for the GC for UAE Team Emirates. I said, hey, João, what do you think about that? Not too bad for a dictatorship team, a team that's run by dictators, for Juan Ayuso to get his freedom to go for victory. And there you are. What does this mean for you and the team? And he was happy for Juan. He said, in these days, the riders can go into escapes. He expects tomorrow on Angliru that Ayuso and all the other boys, Berg, as well as Soler Power, Marc Soler Power, will all be circling around João Almeida as he tries to upset, overthrow, race favorite, of course, Jonas Vingegaard. And I said, hey, you know, if the team had to go home without the GC overall first place title victory in the Vuelta a España, 5 stage wins ain't bad. And he shook his head, yeah. Sweet dreams or nightmares tonight? He said, well, we'll have to see. I'll let you know tomorrow, because tomorrow's one of the big stages that should define this Vuelta a España 2025 overall. Now, I must mention, in the GC group, not much happened today. All the attention, all the focus was on Juan Ayuso, Spain's chosen one, who is only 22 years old still and hasn't ridden many GC Grand Tours. He did that Tour de France in 2024. Tadej Pogacar will never ride Tadej Pogacar again after what happened there. Remember João Almeida looking back towards Juan Ayuso. Juan wasn't quite cooperating. He went home later in the race. Had the Giro d'Italia earlier this year, had to abandon with several issues, including that bee sting. And now this race, which hasn't really gone well considering GC-wise for Juan Ayuso. And where he goes to next, I think it's going to be Lido Trek next year. After he broke his contract 3 years early, the team agreed to let him go because it wasn't working out for either party. We'll see how that plays out in 2026. But at the end of the day, at stage 12, all raced here in the beautiful Cantabria, as I told you about. Coastlines, inlands, beautiful greenery. Well, it's Juan Ayuso, Spaniard, 22 years old, Team UAE Team Emirates on top. Stage winner, second stage win in this race of Vuelta a España.